on my chipos, man. I got this, yeah.
And now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to listen to Reece and Dan on the Ankle Pick Pod.
Welcome back, ankle pickers. We are here on a lovely Thursday evening with Country Club Kobe and I found out we have the same illness, and DanKwagers, Danny's sweating the Red Wings while talking dirty to me about the Kraken. Gentlemen, how are we?
What up? What up?
Good.
Feeling great.
Weather's shit in Austin right now. We're going through a storm. So I
How
got nowhere to be.
shit? Talk to me. How shit? Are we talking
Like
down?
tornado warnings.
Okay. Hopefully you don't cut out because you are the recorder here. Dan, your head belongs in a PFL hat. For those watching on YouTube, drop a little PFL comment because Danny's looking fresher than a mug.
You know, we've got a PFL, I won't say graduate, but a PFL experienced fighter in Loic Radzikov, kicking off this 285. So I figured it'd be appropriate.
I love it. And we will get there because I taped that and I will not be able to pronounce the name still, but I have a decent read on it. So I'm excited to get there. But before we get there, we're going to go through a quick recap. Clear my throat there. Quick recap of last week's UFC Vegas 70, 1, 2,
70.
3, 70. Where the main event got scrapped and they need to redo the poster because Brendan Allen wants his mug on there. But we'll start with, let's see. We're going to go Joe Selecki. No, you know what? We're going to go Nuralo Aliv. Where's Rafael Alves? Majority decision because Aliv is 9-0, looked apart. And I mainly want to direct this towards Dan. Dan, what's your takeaway from this? Because Rafael Alves is very, very dangerous. Aliv's coming in very young.
I totally think what we saw from Aliv is something to notice, but I thought you were going to direct me towards a question about the bite or the phantom bite.
We were getting there. Yeah, we were getting there because it was a majority decision. So now that we are there, let's talk about the phantom bite that apparently happened on a fish hook. Mark Smith saw bites.
Something like that. They went to the replay and it almost looked like Alves was pushing on the jaw or something. And then the ref decided based on the marks on the finger that even though they didn't have a clear replay, it was enough to deduct a point, which was interesting to me. I'm not sure how much I like the principle of that, but it probably was the right decision.
Yeah,
I say with confidence.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence apparently was there with the bite, but it's like it kind of reminded me of Chandler Poirier, where if someone's fish hooking you, and you just got to make sure you get marks and you get a point. It was a weird situation, and I'm glad it didn't end up becoming a factor.
Totally.
Dan, your boy, human backpack Joe Selecki.
Did it again.
Up on Carl Deaton. Yeah. He backpacked him the whole first round. Second round, much the same until he finally choked him out.
There's your first bonus of the night.
Wow. See, I wasn't sure that was going to get a bonus due to the size of the line and the expected Joe Selecki backpack.
I got news for you. Every finisher got a bonus this week.
Wow.
Gotta love that.
So
okay,
we'll get to a few of them. But
yeah, we'll skip ahead. So Charles Johnson's very active. He dropped a split decision to O'Day Osborne. Wasn't upset about the decision. Seemed fine. Okay, Jordan Levitt, bro.
The new knockout king, Jordan Levitt.
What the? So Jordan Levitt throws a vicious knee. I think it was 3 knees in a row, followed up by punches, knocks out Victor Martinez. And this is one that I cited for an insta bonus. But Jordan Levitt's a guy who gets pretty styled on by Paddy Pimblett, who's getting no love for his skill as of recent, but comes out and really, for a guy who's known for grappling and submission, he put the work on Victor Martinez.
And that's the point right there. For a guy that has been a one-trick pony, has been one-dimensional, like we say about a lot of fighters, in his entire UFC career, he came and shut up a lot of people.
Yeah, it was impressive for sure. And I think he said, I don't know if it's his first full pro career or it's his full pro career. I'm looking now. He only had one finish, and it was that Matt Wyman slam in his debut. And he was saying, oh, that doesn't even count as a finish. It's so, fluky. So seeing the knees to the punches TKO, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of the Syndicate MMA youngster, 27. Thought he was older.
I'm not ready to go so far. I still think the Monkey King is going to Monkey King. But
I just think that if you have a guy who can put strikes together, but also can grapple, Danny, maybe
he's slick with it, but I wouldn't say he's a dominant grappler.
That's fair. Because if he was, the Patty Pimlin wouldn't have gone so horribly. Trevor Peek is going to 1,000,000,000,000% be a potential fade for Dan and I. I mean, it is not. I've never seen anything more potential fade. Like beats up on Eric Gonzalez. Eric Gonzalez was the ugly duckling, the sheep that didn't really belong. And Trevor Peek had difficulty putting him away, but the rawness and the wildness of his strikes to me was, if you get a technical striker, if Peek slots in at the favorite, you have a dead man walking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of defines swinging and banging.
Yeah.
And for a non-heavyweight, that's not really a strategy you can have and expect to have any kind of history. Like you said, there's going to be someone more technical that's going to pick them apart, and we'll be all over it.
So I'm interested to see how matchmakers handle that, because I think that not only does Dana love his Contender Series guys, but he's decent on the mic, and he had I know Dana hates when people talk about Jesus, but like he seems like a guy that people want to get behind. So I'm interested to see where the matchmaking goes from here. So this was
Bruce Buffer had a whole thing with him afterwards where he gave him his card. Like Bruce Buffer, like I don't know how many people he's done it for in the past, but
friend of the podcast, Bruce Buffer. Got to remind some people.
Yeah. An ankle pick favorite. Wait, he gave him the card that he was reading off of?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which he's only done like 2 or 3 times or something.
Yeah, I was about to say, Trevor Peek seemed like he was over the moon with even like being adjacent to Bruce Buffer. So I think Bruce probably appreciated that, the appreciation for the sport. And the thing I love about Trevor Peek is, as wild as his style is, he was so over the moon with the whole experience. You got to respect it for a guy who's just happy to be there, living his dream. So we'll see. But unfortunately, as great as that is, fade God coming up. This would have been I would have pushed for this to be the ankle lock. Mike Malott, submission arm triangle over Johan Lanesi. Dan and I backed Johan in the past because of his striking that we thought would be the difference maker, and he barely edged it out. We got lucky. Mike Malott's a finisher. Didn't see a submission coming, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's much to make of this other than Mike Malott just outclassed a guy who probably is fringe UFC.
Totally. And I think it's the same kind of stuff that we saw with Gabe Green. It's once this becomes a grappling match, or once any grappling's involved, Lanesi is just not the guy that you want to be backing.
But even in the striking exchanges, I wasn't like, it didn't seem like Johan was all of a sudden just significantly better than Malott. Like Malott was getting his, and even before it went to the mat. But I agree. I don't know what's next for Lanesi, but Malott, young, good on the mic, finisher. I'm sure Dana loves what he's seeing. So we got $50K for Peek, $50K for Malott, $50K for Levitt, $50K for returning Tatiana Suarez, beats up on Montana De La Rosa. Very happy to see Tatiana Suarez looking her old form. Anything to add outside the fact that she had a 3-year layoff, looks the part? Is there something you were worried about? Is there something you want to take away from being like, wow, that's amazing? Anything in regards to this fight at all?
No, I just think flyweight's on notice. I think she's totally steps back into being a contender right away.
And I'm sure Kobe, because he scours the news, has seen the wardrobe malfunction debate around this fight. I believe they said a takedown was secured because Montana De La Rosa's top was coming off or something. I mean, Tatiana would have gotten it either way, but I know people were talking about how Michelle Watterson wears a top shirt and whatever. Second favorite bet of the night, also cashed. Augusto Sakai beat up on Dontel Mays. And this to me is simply just there's levels to this. And it's very like Dontel Mays beat up bad on like the Josh Parisians of the world, made him look like a world-class grappler, or the Roque Martinez of the world. But when you get to a guy like Augusto Sakai, who he beats up on the Dontel Mazes of the world, very one-sided fight. But then you get to the next level of the Biggie Boy Rosenstrikes, the Overeem, the Tai Tuivasas, the Spivaks, and he falls short. So I don't know how much headwinds this makes in the heavyweight division. It just reminded me again that there's just so many levels to this game.
You know who he went to the third round with, not to bury my lead?
Huh.
Cyril Gane, one half of our main event of 285.
Look at that. I don't know if is that a net positive or a net loss?
I think it's a detraction on Cyril.
Okay.
That's what I was put guys like Dontel Mays out.
And you were a guy who was an early Cyril adopter, so I'm excited to see your take on this fight, and I've been back and forth on it. We'll get there shortly. Main event. So the news, the big news was day of fight. We lost a lot of fights on this card, but day of fight, Nikita Krylov falls ill. Ryan Spann, Nikita Krylov, main event gets called off. It is rebooked. Kobe, not to bury news and notes, but it's rebooked for when?
3/11. So the week after the UFC 285.
Yeah, so literally after this, a week from Saturday, that Marab card. But
you mean that Piotr Jan card?
No, the Marab card. So
who's the A side? Jan versus Dvalishvili.
All right. Well, so long story short, Krylov Spann moved along a bunch of other scratches like Haley Cowan, Aylin Perez never happened, amongst others. But so Krylov Spann moved. So the new main event was our boy Brendan Allen versus our other boy Andre Muniz. Allen gets the job done via submission, rear naked choke at the very final seconds of 30 seconds left in round 3. Danny, I want to know your takeaway from this fight, because Brendan Allen's a guy we've backed in the past. Andre Muniz is a guy that we've been thoroughly impressed with. Matchup-wise, matchups make fights, obviously. Styles make fights. This was an interesting matchup because of the grappling prowess on both sides and the lack thereof striking on both sides. What's your main takeaway from not only the middleweight division, but this fight?
So I've got a main takeaway. And there's kind of a hot take involved here, but essentially it's a strategy that I think we'll be able to use and profit on going forward. And there's something in this fight that was eerily similar to Fluffy Hernandez tapping out
Rodolfo
Vieira. And it's these matchups where I still don't think after Brendan Allen tapped out Andre Muniz that he's better on the mat or that he's more skilled submission grappler. But I do think that there's this matchup that you see where it's high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners against grinders that once they get tired, the jiu-jitsu goes out the window. Once that grip becomes compromised, all of a sudden you're a one-dimensional bag that can't really compete anywhere else. And I think that that's really what it was. It was the veteran savvy, the fight IQ, and obviously Brendan being skilled everywhere and more skilled than Muniz on the feet. He didn't lose maybe a second of this fight. Really impressed from Brendan Allen. But I do think it's totally exposing a matchup that I'm going to look for in the future of grinder style fighters that can survive versus jiu-jitsu experts who are sub or bust.
Well, the question I wanted to ask you is, do you put Muniz in that sub or bust category with Adolfo? Do you think he's truly that one-dimensional?
Well, so I didn't so much, but I do think once you get him tired, that's it. He's not a guy that's going to face adversity, climb back, fight for your money, bite down on that mouthpiece. And that's something we knew Brendan Allen was going to do.
Right.
I'll put my hand up and say I was completely wrong. I thought that the second it hit the mat, we'd see the levels. But I think the gas tanks played a big part in how successful Brendan Allen was.
Yeah, and that's happened a lot. So Brendan Allen's a guy that we've always backed in the past, but Mooney's is in a similar vein. So it was two guys we're big fan of going head toe to toe. I think Mooney's will be back, but that's an interesting note by you. And it's also an interesting note where if you can dial in that spot, Fluffy Hernandez 20-1 to win by sub. Brendan Allen was like 9 or 10-1 to win by sub. If you can identify a more one-dimensional fighter who could gas out, that sub prop could be highly profitable on the other side.
Especially with the guys like Vieira and Mooney's who, when they panic, it's not even a panic wrestle. It's a panic pull guard. This is where I'm comfortable. And all of a sudden it's a hurt, tired fighter in a bad position because that's the only way they see that they can maybe come with a reversal or a sweep to change the tide.
Yeah, that is an interesting perspective. And the thing too, the last thing before we close the book on this is I do think Mooney's can adjust. I mean, he had 15 submission wins. That was his first submission loss. I mean, he's a guy who definitely leans one-sided, but can definitely round out his game. He's very, I don't want to say raw. Raw is the wrong word, but he only has like 5 or 6 UFC fights. So he's newer to the big show. But Brendan Allen on the other side, I'm happy to see him getting the love he deserves because you and I have been a big Brendan Allen guys for a while. I know we took a hit on the Sean Strickland, which he's calling to run back. And I think also I think we laid off the Chris Curtis, if I remember correctly. But Brendan Allen, I'm happy to see.
There.
What's up?
I was all over Chris Curtis.
We might have been on Chris Curtis. I was about to say we might have. I can't remember, but I'm glad to see Brendan Allen getting the respect on his name, especially after the Christoph Jocko win. Now getting another sub win over Andre Muniz, and you're looking at a guy who's a top 10 middleweight now from unranked, or at least top 15. So all in all, for as much fight cancellations there were and as much shuffling and a lot of finishes, a lot of good fights, thoroughly entertained, another great event in the books. And let's move on. I don't know. Oh, Bellator 291 was last week. I just wanted to add that Yaroslav Amazov took down Logan Storley in the title fight, and it's very impressive. Amazov, for those who know, he's fights out of Ukraine, born in Ukraine. So he took 2 or almost 3 years off to fight for the Ukrainian army, and he somehow came back even better and just completely wiped the floor with Logan Storley. Also, Jeremy Kennedy got the win, and I back Jeremy Kennedy every time he fights, and he literally wins every fucking time. So shout out Jeremy Kennedy. Impressive performance by Amazov. Good Bellator card in the books as well. Okay. That's
also keep an eye out for Khasan Magomed Sharipov. Love that there's another Magomed Sharipov in the sport.
We need more. We need more Magomeds, and we need more Sharipovs. So I'm all in when you combine the two. Kobe, take over.
Going in order. Pavlovich is in Vegas this week. He is your heavyweight title fight backup fighter between Gane and Jon Jones. That's fresh news today.
And there were rumors behind that. And I had been sitting here at home hoping that, because Dana was kind of keeping it under wraps of who it was. And I was hoping that DC had put his hand up of like, put me as the late notice guy. This is the fight I want. Was heavyweight, my realm.
Never. Do we think the DC can make 265 these days?
No. He
it's
literally
think, it's a pipe dream over here, but
he literally
DC
looks like
having John at heavyweight, I think that he would invite that.
No. So I'm a little shocked that I'm not totally shocked, but I'm kind of shocked that they went with Pavlovich over Blades. That was my big takeaway from that is Pavlovich is like the new up and comer, where I feel like Blades has kind of been running this division for a while. I know that Derek Lewis KO is a blemish, but like outside of his 2 cracks with Francis, he's been pretty much flawless in this division. So Pavlovich, for a guy who kind of came out of nowhere, a guy that we got even money against Tuivasa and even money against Derek Lewis, it's shocking that he all of a sudden is the title match sub over a guy like Blades, who's really been, it makes me think
it kind of doesn't matter. Hopefully it doesn't matter. And those guys are scheduled against each other in April. So we'll
fair. Sorry.
All right. Darren Till, news this week was that he was cut and released of his contract from the UFC. I know that he went on MMA Hour or something and was talking about maybe some injections to his knee and helping that recover and maybe needing to step aside and getting away from USADA. But
yeah, maybe some injections somewhere else.
Yeah. Let's call a spade a spade. Darren Till is one of the bigger hype train derailments I've ever seen. And I don't mean any disrespect to him, but when he knocked out Donald Cerrone, he was talking about how he's going to be the absolute best to ever grace the sport. He got a lucky victory nod against Wonderboy in London, which is home cooking. Okay. But ever since Woodley styled on him, it seems like we lost a man. Like I don't know what happened. I hope to see Darren Till comes back. He's a great personality, but I'm sad because I really thought we were looking at a guy who was going to be a perennial or a at least a champion at some point. So to see this type of derailment is sad. And I hope his knee heals. I really do. I hope the best for him. But this is something, if you asked me 4 years ago, I never would have seen coming.
Never forget when our charismatic host, our resident sharp, Kingpin MMA, took Darren Till over Robert Whitaker.
Rip. I mark this in the calendar because I have a comeback for Dan later in the show. I've been cooking up an insult, and now it's free fire.
I know where it's coming.
We all know what it is.
Yeah, we all know the matchup. I got to get my shots in. No, I know that fight's coming up.
All right. We have a fight that we can set the spread for. I don't remember whether we've announced this fight or not, but middleweight at UFC 286. It's not the co-main, it's not the main, but it is Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze, Reece of Italian blood and Danny of Georgian blood.
Cheers.
Danny,
I totally do have to get a Georgian flag and hang it.
You do.
Me.
You do.
Danny's got.
I just totally have to wait until
wait though.
Shuts down.
Wait though.
Rob.
I was going to say March 11th. I believe one half of that co-main event's Georgian.
Yeah, I won't have a Georgian flag until that one's over.
You love Marab. I don't even.
I do. I'm a Marab fan. I'm a Marab fan. Piotr Jan's the best in the world.
3-3 in matches on the year. Danny's up 1-0 in this game, so he will lead this one off. Vettori Dolidze. This one opened today.
A really tough one to line. I'm not gonna lie. Marvin Vettori has almost fallen into that Darren Till, Paulo Costa category of more of a meme than a fighter these days. And I say that with a little bit of jest because he's a lot more active than those guys and he's got a win over Paulo. But he's been a guy who talks a lot more than he can back up. And on the other side, you have a perennially underrated Roman Dolidze coming off of a dominant win as an underdog once again to Jack Hermanson, proving that he can hang with the guys of Vittori's level. It's tough because I kind of want to have Roman Dolidze as a favorite, but ultimately I don't think he will be. I do think that Vittori's presence and Vittori's stature and really just his experience is going to put him over the top. I mean, we're talking 4 fights ago, Roman Dolidze lost to Trevin Giles. So Marvin Vettori is going to be the favorite here, but it's going to be close. Like I said, I wanted Dolidze to be the favorite. I'm going Marvin Vettori minus 135.
Okay. Yeah, Dan and I did the same runaround to ultimately get to the same result. I've been backing Dolidze as a dog because, honestly, because of Dan. Dan's really talked up Dolidze, talked about how well-rounded he is, talked about especially his grappling prowess. So I had a ticket out there.
It was tough. I was high on him coming in.
Yeah,
split decision, John Allen, followed by a loss to Trevin Giles, and I'm still like, no, he's the guy.
Yeah. No, it's definitely come full circle for you. But when you looked to me, the coming out party for him was the Kyle Daukaus win. Obviously hasn't aged as well because Daukaus hasn't really recovered since. But I've gotten good money on him against Phil Hawes. I got really good money in on him against Jack Hermanson, and both were incredible performances. But I think that as much as I think people are going to be looking to back Dolidze at the dog here or like that price as the dog here, I think you still have a guy in Marvin Vettori who's fought for the title. I think you still have a guy in Marvin Vettori who's gone 5 rounds with Izzy, Costa, Whitaker. I think Dolidze is going to have a tougher time getting him to the mat than he has in the past. I think he's going to have a tougher time on the feet than he has in the past. And so I think that kind of what Dan pretty much said, ultimately, Vettori's a little bit more proven, a little bit more steady than a Roman Dolidze who's just really coming into form.
You mentioned trouble getting him to the mat. You remember the last time he fought an Italian in Staropoli?
Oh my God.
Staropoli's not Italian.
Yeah,
he just held him the whole time.
Yeah, okay. An undersized Staropoli. I'm not even talking about that fight. I can't even get into it. I would cry. Do you remember the time he tried to take Trevin Giles to the mat? No, just long story short, Vettori's gonna be the favorite. I'm gonna smidge over Dan a little bit just because I think as much as I also thought it could go Dolidze being the favorite, I'm not buying it. I'm going to go a little bit over Dan. I think 35 is a little low. I probably would slot this in all reality closer to Vettori minus 165, but I'm going to go 140 for the sake of my pride.
No pride necessary on this one. 270 Vettori on Caesars. Coming back the other way, Dolidze 220 plus 220.
So a big old number.
Wow.
I don't know how people have that much faith in Marvin at this point.
Where did that open out of curiosity? That's kind of insulting.
Today. No movement yet.
I actually might get on there. I might hop on for a little bit. Is it available? Where is it available on the US books?
Caesars Sportsbook.
Caesars is
in the last 3 years, Vettori's only wins are Paulo Costa and Kevin Holland.
No, Mark
he's totally in that meme category.
Dolidze went 3-0 as an underdog last year.
Mark my words right now, that line will regress. I can't tell you it's going to win for sure. I promise you it's going to come off that open. I would be shocked if big ticket bettors or sharp bettors were betting Vettori at what'd you say, 70? That's nuts.
Yep. No chance.
That's nuts.
We're now all caught up on UFC 286. So Caesars have got lines for every one of those fights. You guys are free to check those out.
That's Gaethje Fiziev.
Yep.
That's Kamaru Leon. Who else am I missing?
That's on my birthday. True story.
Happy birthday.
That's March
Reece.
18th, right?
Happy birthday. Yep.
Thanks, boys. It's going to be a special show for us. I think Danny owes me a couple Malorts as a birthday gift. Special show.
You know what? I was at a bachelor party this weekend that I drank Malort at.
For fun?
Well, as a horse race punishment.
I respect that.
Shouts out Malort, which has a unique
botanical
taste. It's enjoyed by two-fisted drinkers, two-fisted bettors alike. The full-bodied flavor of an unusual botanical.
Speaking of two-fisted drinkers and two-fisted bettors, Bare Knuckle FC, April 29th.
Wild. I saw this card. I didn't even believe it.
Well, 2 big fights to announce on it, and a couple guys that we haven't seen in Bare Knuckle before. But Mike Perry and Luke Rockhold will be headlining. Eddie Alvarez and Chad Mendez below him.
Cannot believe the Luke Rockhold to BKFC, and I could not believe Eddie Alvarez to BKFC. I was like, what
notoriously strong-chinned Luke Rockhold.
Right? The BKFC is going to fare so well for him.
I'm actually really excited for that Alvarez Mendez matchup.
No, I think Alvarez is going to get the better of him just because it's box. I would like to see that in like an MMA type setting because Mendez is going to lean on that wrestling. It'd be interesting, but I feel like Alvarez is probably going to be a pretty slotted favorite, don't you think?
Probably.
Where do you guys have Perry? I haven't seen lines at all. So
Perry's significantly undersized there, which is interesting. Which makes
Perry's like
Rockhold put up a fight against Paulo.
The best quality that Perry has in a fighter is like you can take a baseball for that bat and like pitch it fastball, give the fucking bat to Shohei Ohtani, and he's gonna walk away.
No, it's Mike Perry's the definition of a guy who's born to fight.
All right.
I'm gonna be watching that. Also, really quickly, I want to deliver this live on air. Dan, Kraken overtime winner. Oliver Bjorkstrand, tough loss, brother.
Yeah, watch it.
All right, proceed to the highlighted route and then select guide for more options.
2 more pieces of news, both location announcements for pay-per-view cards. UFC 288 announced that's May 6th for the Prudential Center in New Jersey.
Okay.
And UFC 290 also announced that's July 8th, the capper of International Fight Week back at T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas.
Okay.
International Fight Week over the 4th of July.
Yep.
Nothing says international like celebrating America in Vegas.
In years past, and I don't know if this is still how it is, but in International Fight Week, they have the main event to Tough the day before the card. So it's like that Friday night, it's the Tough main event card. So it's everyone that fought in Tough, and then like they'll do a headliner, like some random fight. And then the next day is that pay-per-view card for International Fight Week that has the draws. I don't know what that timeline looks up for the Chandler Connor season, but that's interesting.
That's all I got for news and notes. You guys got anything to add?
The only thing I have to add was I saw that Paige Van Zant got an OnlyFans. You know, for the boys, I'm on top of it all over the place. And I'll tell you, it delivers. It's good. So just do some digging. You're welcome. And that's the news for me. That was one of those things. That was the highlight, because that's one of those things I've always dreamed about. I think I've even like late night, I pray to God. I'm like, God, thank you so much for such an amazing day. Yada, yada, yada. Also, please have Paige Van Zant start an OnlyFans. So anyways, delivered.
So Reese is all too familiar with Austin Vanderford, it seems.
I fade him every time. Worked like a charm. They had him against Gegard Mousasi or something, and he was barely a dog. I was like, all right, good joke. All right. That is true.
UFC 285.
It seems like I'm joking. That is true news. So you're welcome.
UFC 285 this weekend, March 4th, T-Mobile Center, Las Vegas, Nevada, 9 p.m. Central Time main card. That's 7 p.m. local, and 1:30 p.m. local time prelims, 4:30 Central.
Dan, before we start breaking on this card, I got a question for you. How many bets are you? I mean, what are you looking at as far as bets go on this card? How are you feeling?
I'm looking at a couple. Obviously, it's a pay-per-view card, a lot of attention. A lot of these are beat up, but I do see some dog spots, and I do see some spots where I'm intrigued.
Good. I'm excited. Kobe, can you do me a favor? Get on Best Fight Odds. Click the parlay tab, because I want to start building one as we go through the card. Hopefully, scrap one that shows some weight near the end. Some of Danny and I's favorites. So we'll start with Radzhabov versus Esteban Ribovics. Ribovics. Taping these guys all week, still can't pronounce it. But Radzhabov, I is the rightful. Let's see. So Radzhabov minus 300, Ribovics plus 230. And I really want to hear Dan's take on this, because I'll get into it. So Radzhabov is the PFL vet, fights out of Killcliff FC that Dan was talking about, and he's taking on Esteban Ribovics, who's coming off Contender Series, right hook, ground and pound over Thomas Paul, and he's undefeated at a whopping 11-0 coming in. So plus 230 on an undefeated fighter. Dan, give me the breakdown.
Yeah, for me, stylistically, I have Radzhabov head and shoulders above him, both in terms of just the matchup and also the skill level that they've faced coming up to this point. Where I'm hesitant is the short notice aspect. I think there was a whole issue with like Loic being selected for the Ultimate Fighter season and he being part of the group that Conor removed. And this is kind of the UFC's apology to him. And so it's all happened really fast. He's obviously been training, but he hasn't been preparing for Esteban. This isn't a matchup he's taking as seriously. I'm not sure if I like laying 3-1 on it, but I do see him as just the better fighter in this matchup. And his kind of grinding, smothering, grappling style should be a little bit too much for Reebok to handle. Just huge talent gap.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to mention the tough issues. And I also wanted to mention, this is a man who has unanimous decision win over Chris Wade, a guy who has beat up on Ahmed Aliyev, a guy who just beat off Zach Zane. That's an Eagle FC, so I'm not putting too much weight into that. But especially in the PFL, man, they gave him a tough schedule. They gave him all the draws. And I went through and watched a lot of those and really enjoyed watching a lot of those. But you have a guy, like you said, who will really drag this youngster into deep waters. But also, Ribovic is a guy who's, from what I've seen, likes his hands a lot. And I think that as Radzhabov is going to drag him down and wear him out and drag those arms down, the deeper this fight goes, the better it fares for him. So I like this fight, and I like it even more. I think the -300, you're right, is a tough spot. But I think that this is one of those patented Danny live bet spots where if maybe Radzhabov
start fast.
Yeah. If Ribovic starts fast, you could have a nice price on a guy who should be able to weather and drag him deep, wear him out. So outside of the short notice aspect, I agree. I lean Radzhabov.
I really do like that angle. And you look at, right? I mean, even his matchup with Haush Manfio, where it didn't go his way.
That was a great fight.
If you take Haush Manfio's power, I'm not sure this Ribovic guy's got something for you.
It's not possible. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked. Varad, but look, really quickly before we move on, Radzhabov agreed. No parlay, little steep.
No parlay for me. I'm looking at the over 1.5 that is appetizing. It's like -160, -170, a couple of different places, but
we can sink in there.
DanKwagers is notoriously square when it comes to props.
Props and women, baby, and heavyweights. Farid Basharat takes on Damon Blackshear, and Basharat's a whopping favorite here. Basharat's -410 over on DK, +330 on Blackshear on the other side. Dan, Blackshear's a guy that I backed against as a huge dog against Yusuf Zalal, and it ended in a majority draw, and it was an upsetting majority draw because it was all Blackshear's fault. He won the first round nice, mixed in the wrestling, won the second round pretty effortlessly, gassed out to unlike anything I've ever seen, and gets 10-8'd in the third, barely hangs on, goes majority draw. Basharat's the younger brother of Javid Basharat, a guy who beat up on our boy Tony Gravely, and coming off the Contender Series, but he's the younger of the brothers, the less experienced of the brothers, and I do not feel comfortable playing 410 as much as I don't want to be on Blackshear +330. I don't know if you have a better angle at this.
No, I completely agree. This one's a pass for me. I like the Basharat side if you can prove to me he's just as good as Javid. But just with that Contender Series to go off of, I'm not sure if that's enough of a body of work for me. We did see, you mentioned the Gravely fight. It's really, really tough to close the distance and get takedowns against these Basharat guys. They're crazy sharp, crazy accurate, crazy good footwork. And I do think Blackshear needs a takedown to win. So I see why the line's there. I'm not gonna. This is another one. It's just there's so many question marks and things that could prove to be wrong about Basharat with the assumptions that he fights the exact same that his brother.
Yeah,
His brother actually has 2 more inches in reach than Javid Basharat. They're both huge for 125.
They're also very high IQ. So it'll be interesting to see if Basharat can, like Danny said, keep that distance away. Kobe, you're a marathon guy. What's the likelihood that Blackshear can improve his cardio? Talk to me, Mr. Marathon.
What's the likelihood that he can improve his cardio?
It's in that type. Yeah,
here. I wasn't a marathon guy until I decided to train to run a marathon. So anybody can improve their cardio with time and effort. It's a matter of whether he's done it.
I'm all out of drinks to drink to the marathon. Okay. I mean, if Blackshears can increase that cardio and really drag on Basharat, that 330 price is going to be an absolute steal. But I agree.
It's if he can get a hold of him. It might not even be about the takedown defense if he can get a hand on him.
That too. There's also taking place at 35. I don't know if the Zalal fight was I think it was also at 35. Jessica Penne is taking on Tabitha Ricci at 115. The line's pretty big here as well. Tabitha Ricci minus 230. Jessica Penne plus 195. Another pass for me. Who am I to defy science?
Same here. We really don't have to spend too much time on this.
I'm with you.
There's obviously a huge age gap. I think it's 12 freaking years.
Something like that, yeah.
We didn't hit stylistically on earlier when we were recapping Vegas 70. Can I get a
please? Please. I don't even remember there being a women's fight on there.
Jasmine Jesuda Vicious.
Oh, we skipped that one. Yeah.
She was a dog that hit like a plus 105.
Okay.
And then Tatiana Suarez, who was an enormous favorite.
Yeah, so that's the opposite.
Reverse science.
So women's science 1-0, alternate science also 1-0. Both are positive this year. Women's dog science is plus 11.25 units. Alternate science is 4-0 plus 3.52 units.
It's actually a decent return for the 4-0. I would have thought it would have been less, honestly.
I'll tell you that we are so due for some real negative regression in this woman's science.
No, it's legit. It's just science. But so really quickly, because we're on the subject, but Tabitha Ricci's a girl who she hasn't shown up against a girl like Manion Farrow, but her toughest test outside of that is Polyana Viana. And so it's hard to lay a heavy price when on the alternate side, you have a girl in Jessica Penne who, yes, she's a big age gap and yes, she's on the older side, but like she's been in this sport forever. She beat up on Karolina Kovalkiewicz. She beat Lupi Godinez via split. She's fought the Andrades, the JJs.
Yeah, she's got good BJJ. She could backpack you. She could win rounds. I think that Ricci being primarily a wrestler is knowledgeable enough to avoid those spots.
Especially with high-level BJJ as well.
I think Ricci's kind of got a really comparable skill level to a Lupi Godinez. It's just the style is that she's a much more knowledgeable grappler that isn't going to be caught in a bad position for extended periods.
Yeah, I would be shocked if anyone had a strong lean either way here because I think there's just too easy to make a counter argument. So this is where I'm nearing my first play/parlay ad, but I'm apprehensive. So Cameron Saman is taking on Mana Martinez here, and Saman has regressed a little bit to minus 250. He's seen as high as like minus 305, I think. On the other side, he's got Mana Martinez plus 210. So Dan, here's my angle at this. Cameron Saman has proven he's a South African prospect, fought in the Contender Series, got the finish, had some issues against Kazlau, still got the finish, but he's extremely young. I think he's like 22, but he's shown to me that he's very well-rounded, can strike with the best of them, but also can grapple.
Great kicks.
Yeah. Great kicks, great grappling, good combinations. Mana Martinez is going through the fact that he's switching camps, doesn't have his head coach because he was a Glory MMA product. And in the UFC, he barely edged out Brandon Davis, lost to Ronnie Lawrence, got subbed by Draco Rodriguez, who's cut, and really beat up on the lower. I mean, split decision over Guido Canetti. Like I feel like a guy like Saman is this is the type of price tag that you look back on and you're like, yeah, I got him minus 205 against or 250 against whoever the fuck, you know? So I'm tempted to play Saman here. I'm not going to lie.
I don't disagree. Mana is a guy I've never been crazy impressed with. I had a huge Ronnie Lawrence bet, which was looking untouchable for 2 rounds. And then in the third, Mana Martinez decided like my power didn't go anywhere, and it did get shaky. I'll tell you that. He's totally the kind of guy that
yeah.
He's totally the kind of guy that's willing to take like one or two and then just land one harder. Really relying on his power. And yeah, I think the gas tank is there. It's just like you said, he's going through a lot in terms of where he's training, what his lifestyle is. And he's never been kind of nearly as high level as Simon's touted to be. This for me is another pass. More so because of the history I have betting against Mana. I like the stylistic matchup of Ronnie way more, and that was way too close for me. I thought that Mana really he performed better than the number. And so
it's just interesting because Mana was the first ever submission victory for Draco Rodriguez, and Samana is significantly better in the grappling department. I just feel like Mana has so many holes. I don't see a situation where he beats Saman unless I'm missing something, and maybe he outdogs him and out experiences him. But from a sheer like technical skill set perspective, I feel like it's continuously pointing to the side of Cameron Saman. We'll see. That's an interesting one. I would like that very much. Ian Gary takes on Kanan Song, and the line's pretty untouchable. It's Ian Gary -7. So it's something crazy. Hold on, let me find it.
Add him to your parlay?
Yeah, add him to my parlay, please. Ian Gary -750. Kanan Song +500. Dan, take us away. What's going on?
Gary, I think he's really well-rounded. He's a raw prospect. I don't think he does anything super elite, but very crisp striking, great size for and strength combo for welterweight. At 25 years old, he's got the foundation of some great grappling, the foundation of some really accurate striking. He's got good footwork. He's kind of got to work on his identity, but I think he's got all the making of a real legit contender. And I think that this is a good matchup for him, and a guy that is not as well-rounded as him, is not as good athletically, is dangerous, can crack for sure, but is low volume. And I think that this is a great matchup for Ian Gary to get a win on a pay-per-view.
So untouchable line, but Ian Gary should get the nod.
Yeah, I haven't delved into the props for this one at all, but I'm totally on the Ian Gary side. Don't see a ton of value in locking into every single play. But
one of my only thoughts was that Ian Gary's been highly touted since his debut, and outside of that finish of Jordan Williams, he couldn't put away Darian Weeks, couldn't put away Gabe Green. So I think that as talented as he is, you can't lay that type of price on a guy who's as raw as he is. And I totally foresee him winning this. It's going to be probably a pretty easy victory for him as well. But I don't know how anyone could justify putting that price tag anywhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a serious narrative that he might get knocked out, maybe by Song Kanan, maybe in his next one, and then could still be a future champ. The guy's 25 years old.
Yeah.
At 28, 29, 30, he's going to be a completely different.
I mean, look at Islam. Islam got knocked out in his UFC debut, totally rerouted the ship, adjusted, and is now considered pound for pound top 2.
But yeah, I won't say he's untouchable, but I have these guys in completely different categories of who they are and who they can be as fighters.
Yeah, I agree. So this is my other potential play. And Kobe, I will have you add a form of this to this parlay. Julian Marquez is taking on Marc-Andre Barriault at 185. And the line is close. It's Marc-Andre Barriault -150. It was not whoa. I don't know if this DK line's right, because it's 150 across the board. DK apparently has it at 125. Julian Marquez +105. Every other site has 150 though. So I'm not sure. I'm going to actually go with 150 here, because I remember seeing it at 150. Julian Marquez +125 on the other side. So the play that I like here, Dan, is over 1.5. I actually like it fight to start round 2. So it's even a little bit more than the over 1.5. Or fight to start round 3. Fight to start round 3 is -115 each way. I like that. I think
minus 102 at 5 dimes.
Or -102 at 5 dimes. I think Kobe for the parlay, I want to add fight to start round 2 at -300. But this is a fight where Marc-Andre Barriault's a guy who definitely is a brawler, but he's really tough to finish. And I know that the Chidi and Chukwuani went poorly. But he's a guy that continuously, I mean, even though he lost, went to decision with Andrew Sanchez, decision to Christoph Jocko, decision to Jung Young Park, 4 seconds left before he finished Abu Azatir. Decision, Dolce Lugiambula. Julian Marquez on the other side's a guy that I remember watching in the first season Contender Series, was never super over the moon about. He got finished last time out by Hobo Cop, and
it looked terrible.
But it seems to me like this is something that can drag out. I don't think this is gonna be the most exciting fight, but I don't want to back either of these guys. I just think that this is going to be one of those boring-ish stand and trade a little bit, but it eventually goes over.
I gotta say, I'm leaning on the MAB side, and if it comes back down to the 140, 135 area, I'll probably be on it. Marquez for me has just been trending down and down and down, and watching this fight tape this week was
it was
really unique. Like I didn't realize how much he had been trending down, but even the Maki Pitolo and Sam Alvey wins, he's losing the first round and a half.
Maki Pitolo, I felt like he lost every second until he didn't.
Totally. And it's, I mean, the Hobo Cop one was brutal. You could have stopped that a minute earlier. It felt like he was just brutalized by every punch.
You guys were there live? Was that in Austin?
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, the crowd was saying Olay every time he swayed because we thought he was going to fall. I do like the MAB. He's got high volume. He's super tough, like you said, hard to finish. Volume, gets in your face, walks you to the cage, controls kind of where the fight is, good in the clinch. I just think that he's, like you said, the Chidi and Jokuani fight gives you a little bit of pause against another power puncher, another really heavy knockout artist in Julian Marquez. But what I've seen from Marquez isn't that he's got the hand of God anymore. I think that like you're expecting, MAB can survive them, out volume him, control where the fight is, win the optics among the judges. So yeah, there's a couple different angles here for you listeners.
For sure. Get that late finish maybe, but definitely will trend on the later side.
Your fight will start round 2. I'm seeing -230. That's what you want to add here?
Perfect. Yep. The other thing too is for this fight in particular, it is 150 on DK. I just checked just to make sure. So that was a best fight odds problem. Vivian Araujo is taking on Amanda Ribas, 125. Amanda Ribas is -130. Vivian Araujo +110. Danny, take us away. The secret place.
This is a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
Science. There's like almost no science. But you got to follow it anyways. Striker versus grappler. Ribas has been my girl in the past, but as good as she is when the fight hits the mat, she's really lost on the feet and is not a good wrestler. I'm not sure that she's going to be able to, and definitely not frequently, take down Viviane Araujo. And Viviane Araujo has really significant power for women's flyweight. It's something you can't ignore. I think that she's going to tag Ribas, or I think she can tag Ribas. And as long as she stays on the feet, Ribas will be a fish out of water. So I'm definitely not running to bet this, but I'm following the science if I do. And if it keeps moving towards the Brazilian, I'll be on Araujo.
Yeah, honestly, just retweet what Danny said. You took the words out of my mouth. It just felt like this is a fight that is stylistically could be a problem for Ribas if it goes to the wrestling or if it stays standing, honestly, because you know what type of fight Ribas wants to bring out of you. And Araujo's no slouch on the mat either way. So I don't disagree, Dan. I think that you could find a spot on Araujo, but it's worth waiting. Dricus du Plessis is taking on Derek Brunson at 185. And Derek Brunson is coming in at a big dog here, plus 200. Dricus du Plessis, minus 240. And Dan, I really want to hear your take on this because my only take would be to shade the under. I think that if Derek Brunson wants to win this, it's going to be get it to the mat, drag out Dricus du Plessis, eventually get the finish on the mat. But on the other side, du Plessis is a grinder, and he's also extremely tough and durable. And so I also wonder, like, is du Plessis going to crack Brunson, which is something we've seen, and especially with Brunson being 1 foot in, 1 foot out of, we've heard multiple times that this might be his retirement fight. I don't know if you have a side, but I don't know how I could comfortably feel against either of these gentlemen.
Can I say something real quick before Danny?
Please.
Go ahead.
Reece, speaking of what you just said, like this could be Derek Brunson's retirement fight.
Mm-hmm.
Dricus du Plessis' last 2 opponents, Brad Tavares, Darren Till. They're not retired. Well, Brad Tavares might be retired, but Darren Till, his last fight before leaving the UFC.
Getting cut. Yeah.
Like,
is Brad Tavares retired? Did he officially walk away?
I remember he had some sort of like mental. He's definitely taking a break. He said he was stepping away for a little bit. I don't think he said the word retired,
but yeah, I mean that could be because they like Dricus du Plessis. He's very
Kobe. You're thinking of Brad Riddell.
Oh,
Brad Tavares is fighting.
I was about to say
Silva
Tavares. I don't remember hearing that, but
all right, never mind.
but even still, du Plessis is a guy who's very marketable. They definitely want to feed him matchups. They also want to ride him through the middleweight division. Like if Brunson's on his way out, give him another tough one. But at the same time, like Brunson was 1 win away Blonde Brunson was 1 win away from being the next title. I don't know what to make of this. I would be intrigued if anyone had a firm belief on one side or the other.
I thought I was going to be on the Brunson side. Ultimately, I think that this is just not a good matchup for him. If you look deeply at that Blonde Brunson run, he's exposing these prospects that have just zero grappling, and Darren Till, not so much of a prospect, but
is that not du Plessis?
I think du Plessis, it doesn't look the prettiest, but his combination of just strength and aggression makes him really, really hard to control. I don't think that he has the same kind of lack in defensive wrestling as a Shabazian or as a Till or a Kevin Holland, or an Ian Heinisch or an Elias.
It's also like
it's just not the same.
It's also like Marcus Perez, Trevin Giles, Brad Tavares, Darren Till. Like we know Darren Till got cut. We know Darren Till's been on a skid. Brad Tavares was on Ultimate Fighter fucking 4 and there's some shit. He's been around the block for a while, edged him out. You know Trevin Giles is our perennial fade. Don't believe he's with the UFC any longer. We know Marcus Perez isn't with the UFC any longer. Like, do you think this could be a sell high on Dricus du Plessis and potentially get a Brunson who can just take him down and drag him out? A guy
ultimately, I don't like the number.
Okay.
I think du Plessis is going to roll in this. I think that
so
it's
does this see your card
close. It might in a parlay. It really might. Okay. I've flipped all the way from this one. I definitely thought that this was a spot to take the vet lesson Brunson over du Plessis, and I will not be doing that. I'll be fine.
Interesting. Okay. Prelim main event, Cody Garbrandt back in action against Trevin Jones. Fuck, we've been talking about Trevin. How many Trevins are there? So Cody Garbrandt minus 165, Trevin Jones plus 140 on the other side. Dan, tell
Cody
me how
back at bantamweight.
After
the flyweight experiment.
Tell me how you don't take Cody Garbrandt. That's my question to you.
It's just all the things surrounding. What do we know? Like,
we know that Trevin Giles ain't it. Fuck me. We know that Trevin Jones ain't it. We know that Trevin Jones relies solely on his power, which obviously is a net negative for Garbrandt. But Garbrandt's a significantly better striker. He's way more elusive.
He's just fallen so far from UFC champion Cody Garbrandt. He has 1 win since 2016.
I know, but still, this is
Let me repeat that.
Trevin Jones
He
we're
has
talking
one
about.
win since 2016. It's the Sun Sao hook
Yeah, I
that
know,
like
I know,
the
I
way
know,
he
I
got
know.
it done wasn't some crazy combo. I mean, it's highlight reel for sure, but it's like, let me reach down as low as I can, telegraph this right hook, and he caught a Sun Sao.
No, I know. No, I know what you're saying. It's more just like you have a guy who has touched the top of the peak. He's definitely fallen, but like he's taken another over a year off. He's returning at his natural weight class, and he's taking on Trevin fucking Jones. Like there's a big difference between TJ Dillashaw, Bob Font, Kai Kara France, and Trevin Jones. And I think that this could be another buy super low on Cody Garbrandt's spot.
You could definitely be right. It's so hard to do after this stretch he's been on, but
So another no play.
if there's a play, yeah, it's a no play for me. It's totally a
Alright.
no play for me.
Let's keep moving. Main card time, baby. Jamie Pickett survives another fight in the UFC just to be fed to the Lions. He's taking on Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel, last I checked, minus 1,500. Jamie Pickett plus 950. We don't need to spend too much time here. My only question to you, Dan, Bo Nickel, first round finish, minus 200. Thoughts?
Minus 200 sucks. I'm more of the nickel by submission, like minus 150.
Okay. I like that too. I mean, dude, Jamie Pickett looks like he should be a fucking Mack truck. He's built like one of the most freak athletes I've ever seen. Fucking sucks. Smoked by Daukus, smoked by Talulian, smoked by Jordan Wright, lost to Tefan Chukwi. Outside
And
of
nickel, as big as this line is, he actually might be one of the best wrestlers we've ever seen make the crossover to MMA.
I would
He's
almost
taken the-
argue outside of Cejudo, I would probably say he is.
He's taken a good amount of time to build out the rest of his game. I remember when he was a senior at Penn State, an American Top Team was talking about building him an entire American Top Team Happy Valley location because that's the kind of prospect he was in college. And, you know, he's backed it up. I do think he runs through Jamie Pickett here.
No, I mean, if it's one of those things that unless he breaks his knee on the way in, Jamie Pickett truly has a puncher's chance, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like, does Bo Nickel try to showcase? Does Bo Nickel try to?
He's 3-0. I think that he's still going to be real nervous. I think that
Okay.
he goes in there, he puts foot on the gas, relies on his bread and butter, and gets it out of there as quick as possible. You look at his last couple fights, he's not trying to see like, oh, let me prove
he's
to
not.
the people I can
He's
go
murdered every time.
It's 30 seconds, 62 seconds, 52 seconds. He's going to grab you and he's going to choke you out.
Yeah. You're looking at a guy that I don't say often, and I know this isn't like a super crazy take, but future champion written all over it. His wrestling's just too undefendable. And especially at that 85, who has lack thereof wrestling near the top, you could see a guy make a real run. Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jalen Turner. And Mateusz Gamrot, to surprise of a lot of the more casual audience, is the favorite here. He's minus 225, plus 185 on the other side for Jalen Turner. I like Gamrot here, Dan. It's actually going to be a play for me. And
I almost think I missed it. It was 175 up until last week.
Really? I think I missed. Yeah, I mean, I still do think so. And the main reason why is the Matt Frivola loss. I don't want to harp on something that happened 4 years ago, but like Brock Weaver, I don't even know if I want to count that. And then you look at like Brad Riddell, a guy who's not a wrestler like Gamrot.
Here's the thing. Turner, extremely dangerous. If this is on the feet for any kind of extended period of time, he's going to smoke Gamrot. But I'm actually pretty positive there.
Correct.
But yeah, like you said, the level of competition is just nowhere comparable. Gamrot's
also
wrestling,
was a Benny.
Gamrot's like ankle pick single leg might be the best in the UFC, might be the best in all of MMA. It really is the way that he is landing those takedowns on Benny Dariush and Arman Tsarukyan, who might be two of the most proficient grapplers in the history of the sport. It's ridiculous. I do think he's going to get Turner down easily and often. Turner can't really throw a kick for the whole fight because Gamrot's going to catch it and drive that high single, get it above Jalen's head, and just get him on his butt.
The other thing, too, we're talking about a guy in Matus who's a Benny Dariush win away from fighting for the title. Now, granted, I know he got his ass handed to him, but
he took Benny down 4 or 5 times. I don't know.
Matus's wrestling, like you said, is right there with. So, Kobe, add Gamrot for me.
Gamer.
I also think I'm going to have. No, I'm not. So add Gamrot for me. Dan, do you have a play on this at all, or are you passing because of the price?
Passing.
Right.
You know what's. Let me stick to my, and this is going to end up being like such a terrible narrative as a guy that was early on the Shavkat train, but I might actually bet Jeff Neal here.
So I'm glad you segued us because Dan threw an early jab. It was a left hook to the body earlier today. I felt it. It hurt my feelings. Once upon a time on Set the Spread, our resident sharp at DanKwagers on Twitter had Shavkat Rakhmonov priced as the underdog against Neil Magny. Shavkat's coming in against Jeff Neal here, -4 and change. 500 now. My apologies. -550.
And at least I don't change because Neil Magny out-grappled Jeff Neal. And here I am saying Jeff Neal's not going to get out-grappled by a Shavkat.
No, I respect your gun. So are you, talk to me. I mean, Jeff Neal, I think is priced to be the play. I'm shockingly not betting Shavkat.
I'm totally not in the business of fading Shavkat. That is a fool's measure.
Unless it's Neil's Magnies.
No, it is a fool. Even in that fight, I came around and I probably had Shavkat in a parlay or two. But you look at kind of the progression of Shavkat and who they've given him and the steps along the way. This is totally a different kind of test, a huge test. A guy who's fought the likes of Wonder Boy and Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad and looked really great.
Yeah, dog.
It's just sometimes he doesn't look so great. He's got real speed and he's got dangerous power for middleweight. He's super athletic. He's good in the clinch most of the time. Sometimes he doesn't look the part. I do think that Shavkat's going to eventually be able to close the distance. I mean, he's so dangerous on the feet. He's your perennial future champ, top prospect, 100% finish rate. I think it's even split of subs and knockouts. He's like a video game fighter. But yeah, this is a huge test. This is a huge line. And Jeff Neal's been in there with really, really skilled guys.
No doubt. And he beat Bilal, if I remember correctly.
Totally. Beat Bilal, defended a bunch of takedowns.
Vicente too. So I'm assuming it's just because you're not in the business and it is Shavkat on the other side, it's just a pass.
It may be a sprinkle. I may have a half unit at least. I think I probably will have a half unit on Jeff Neal.
One line that's intriguing
to say out loud, but it's a big old number.
Another line that's intriguing, Dan, is over 1.5 -150, because I think that Jeff Neal at the very least will be able to survive.
Yeah.
At the very least will be able to survive.
I love that.
Yeah, right. 150.
I'm writing
cheap.
that down.
You know what? Yeah, Kobe, throw that in that little lacy for me. Over
you can even do
our
starts round 2 with that one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, let's talk gold, because UFC Flyweight Championships on the line. Valentina Shevchenko is taking on Alexa Grasso.
Newly looking human Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
We've said in the past that forget the tape, forget the matchup. add Valentina to the open parlay and sleep tight.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the case against Tyler Santos.
We've had to sweat out a couple now. So the question is, Dan, Valentina Shevchenko minus 600, Alexa Grasso plus 450. Tell me why Shevchenko doesn't go in this parlay right now.
No, Shevchenko goes in this parlay.
She's
This isn't the matchup she's going to lose. I really don't think so. I think she has it coming at some point. You can only be so dominant for so long. I mean, as we'll talk about in a second with Jon Jones. But Grasso, she's a great boxer.
Yeah,
Throws a lot of
stylistically,
volumes, great combinations. Valentina is a better counterpuncher than Grasso is a combination boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And the dynamicism and the amount of strikes that Valentina has in her arsenal often freezes great strikers with a lot of power into playing Valentina's counter pull game. And I do think that that's going to be the case with Grasso as long as this stays on the feet. Maybe there's a close first and second round of striking exchanges. And then Valentina remembers, oh, I have a crazy wrestling edge here. I'll win the next two. Just take one takedown, or in Valentina speak, 2 takedowns over 5 rounds. The classic promo after Nunes got the decision against her. But yeah, I do think that Valentina mixes in the takedowns late and ultimately just grinds out Grasso. I don't think there's a finish here. And if I do, I think that the most likely one's probably a Shevchenko sub. But yeah, I think that we see her hold on to her gold and hold on to her belt and her legacy for this one. Maybe it's a rematch with Santos or maybe an Aaron Blanchfield that ends up doing it. But I don't think that it's going to be Grasso.
Kobe, go ahead and add Valentina to that lay ski for me. All right, Dan, this is what I think everyone's been waiting for, including me. Jon Jones takes on Cyril Gane for the newly vacant UFC heavyweight strap. This will be the undisputed heavyweight champion. Jon Jones.
I'm excited to talk this one through. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have a total side that I'm on right now.
So Jon Jones is sitting at minus,
I'm more likely to bet, and I've got the side I think is more likely to win, and they're not the same side.
So Jon Jones is minus 175, Cyril Gane plus 145. Okay. I like Cyril. And
there's a couple ways to look at it.
Yeah.
There's the matchup of the two fighters in the octagon, what we know about them, what we've seen on paper based on their most recent matchups. And if you analyze that, I don't know how you can see Cyril as a dog. You look at the regression that Jon Jones has had at light heavyweight, fighting the likes of Dominic Reyes.
I also wouldn't say he looks great in this heavyweight build, if we're being honest. It looks like just a chunkier Jon Jones to me. Now, whether that's total fallacy, that's possible. But from what I've seen from the pictures and him on media day, he basically just looks like he just ate more.
I mean, the regression has totally been clear. And in the meantime, I mean, Cyril Gane he's not been perfect. He doesn't have a Jon Jones resume, but he moves like a Jon Jones. He's a fast heavyweight. He's a heavyweight that moves like a middleweight, similar to how people were describing Jon when he first came up. And I'm not going to sit here and be the y'all must have forgot. Jon Jones, most likely, I know by Reese's measure, he's the best fighter to ever fight in the.
He's got to be, he's got to be at least in that conversation. But here's the thing: A, everyone regresses at some point. B, Jon's had so many outside the octagon issues, you don't know where his head or health is at. But C, and more importantly than anything else, you talked about the regression with Santos and Reyes, and he steps up, and it's going to come down to style. Okay, Jon Jones has a phenomenal wrestling background. Haven't seen him use it much. I haven't seen Jon shoot in the octagon for a very long time.
Totally. Jon has always kind of been, or at least most recently, has kind of been a guy that wants to beat you at your own game.
Correct.
He took down Daniel Cormier a couple of times, but didn't even think about it when Dominic Reyes was outboxing him for like 2 rounds in a row.
And here begs the question. Jon Jones in media days and media interviews has been saying, well, Cyril has some of the most glaring holes out of all the heavyweights. He's the least polished. He's a very good kickboxer, but he struggles with X. Francis took him down X. He goes, Francis, a direct quote from Jon was something like, a little paraphrase, but Francis was gassed out. Francis is used to finishing people in the first round. And in the 5th round and 4th round, Francis on wobbly legs got Cyril Gane to the mat. The fact that Jon
totally a concern if you're going to back Cyril Gane.
And the fact that Jon is mentioning that and talking about it and saying that he's shown it, it tells me that Jon's going to try to maybe implement that. And if that's the case, you're going to have a losing ticket. But if we've seen Jon from his last 2 fights, if we've seen the Jon that tries to beat you at your own game, if we see the Jon that wants to stand and bang with Cyril will be there to hit him, not be there to get hit. I think Cyril Gane's going to. One question I have for you, Dan, is do you think that the sheer size can prevent the takedown? Because Jon moving to heavyweight, I mean, Jon's
still got the reach advantage. Jon's still
fucking big, though.
I kind of disagree with your analysis of just the Jon Jones physique. I think that it's hard to
really.
I think it's hard to look completely cut when you're putting on 20 pounds like over the course of a couple of years. I think that he looks like a heavyweight. I mean,
I need to see the advanced metrics on his lifting ability.
You look at the transformation of DC going from light heavyweight to heavyweight. And
DC is actually a bowling ball, though.
I'm not so concerned in the physique of, like I said, the best fighter to ever do it. I just can't confidently say he's the same guy he was 3 to 5 years ago. I do think he's going to win. I really do. I just have that gut feeling. But like I said, you analyze that matchup, and there's no reason on earth why he should be the favorite in 2023. There's just no reason.
So my question to you is then, is there a play here for you?
There might be. There's so many questions. I hate long layoffs. I mean, this has been a move, the move to heavyweight he's talked about for 10 years. I've been chomping at the bit to see what it is. This is not so much the matchup I wanted for him. I wanted I wanted Stipe 3 years ago. I wanted Ngannou for the last year. He's right. There are totally holes in Cyril's defensive grappling. And if this fight ends up being boring and Jon Jones, I'm not going to be so surprised. But there's a lot of things that Cyril could totally shock a lot of people here.
So let me recap this, because I think we're on the same page here, where it could be just another Jon masterclass. It also could be Cyril shocking what seems to be a lot of people. My final conclusion here is we had a lot of maybes, a lot of passes, a lot of leans. Where's DanKwager as of right now? What's your card looking like?
I am going to see myself on that over 1.5 in that curtain jerker on Loic.
Okay.
Ribovics. I really like that play.
Okay.
I am going to stay away from a whole lot of the next ones, and I'm going to see myself on Marc-Andre Barrios.
Okay.
I'm going to probably have Duplessis in a parlay. Maybe. I'm actually not so sure about that as I say it out loud, but I think I'm going to play Pickett by sub.
You mean nickel by sub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, as long as it stays in that minus 150. And then we didn't talk about it when we were going through this one, but I am more intrigued by the over 1.5 in the Matus Jalen Turner fight than I am in the actual Gamrot side. Now that I'm looking at it, it's minus 140.
Minus
145.
Okay.
And I think that it's almost one and the same. Jalen Turner is going to be really really dangerous in the first round. It could be, like you said, for a different fight. It could be a live bet spot after Jalen starts fast, but the takedowns are coming. I do think this one ultimately goes over 1.5. I think it goes over 2.5 too. You get plus money there. I'll be on some kind of combination of Gamrot or the over here. I'm sure about that. And then for the last three, a sprinkle. I'm talking at maximum half a unit on Jeff Neal, and then probably a full unit on that over 1.5. I do think that Shavkat's going to take Jeff as seriously as they come. Jeff is tough. I don't see him just crumbling. And then the only spot I can see myself on at this point for either of the title fights is the Gane side, especially as the line keeps moving and moving. I see over at Caesars right now, it's like minus 180 Jon Jones.
Yeah,
and
it's still climbing too.
Yeah, and we said a long time ago on a Set the Spread about Cyril Gane that he shouldn't. No one on earth should be as big of a number as the number was, unless they're a Greek god.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's time the Greek god holds gold. And I'm not talking interim gold, real gold.
No, I don't disagree. Hopefully that line keeps running. Kobe, where's that parlay sitting at as we speak?
Plus 609.
That's read it out off the chart because I'm placing it.
Cameron Simon, Ian Gary, the Julian Marquez versus Marc-Andre Barriault fight to start round 2.
Okay.
Gamrot over 1.5 in Jeff Neal, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Valentina. So it's 6 leg parlay plus 609.
And it's a lock, so you're welcome. I just gave you plus 609, everybody. I pretty much like everything at parlay. I'll go really quickly. Gonna lean Cyril Gane, like Matus Gamrot, like Bo Nickel in the first minus 200. Gonna lean Garbrandt, probably take it. Barriault to start round 2 at start round 3 at minus 115 against Marquez. Cameron Saban, I feel pretty safe to parlay. And that's it for me. That'll do it for us here at the Ankle Pick headquarters. We'll see them back here when? Next weekend, bright and early for Merab Yan.
Bright and early for Merab Yan. Excited for that week. I'm very excited for this week. Next week will be fun too.
No, we're about to get into a great stretch. Who's signing us off? Kobe, take it because my voice hurts.
3, 2, 1. Oh,
brother.